Well, hey, welcome to another episode of Off the Fence. We have some people now right now are watching, and they're like, "I've seen her before," and we have our special guest, return guest, frequent visitor to this because the first time Tracy you were on, we had people afterwards multiple texts going, "More of that, please. More of that, please."
That's so sweet.
So we are talking about friendship and connection and loneliness, and we thought, I wonder what a professional sees and knows and observes about people being connected to other people, whether you want to call it friendship, companionship, or the opposites and maybe the deficits of that. So we thought, let's have a conversation about our need. I think there's a need, but you could speak to there being scientific need or whatever. But let's talk about friends. By the way, I know that you guys are actually
We are friends.
I just love her.
We wear
friends
the
forever?
similar shoes.
We have the same
You guys same shoe
passion
taste.
for adorable shoes, and I think we need to make like we love Tracy shirts though too. I'm
Oh my
shocked that hasn't
gosh.
happened yet after the
You
last
are
round.
So sweet.
You might show up sometime, and we're wearing.
Oh my gosh.
We love Tracy.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't.
really do.
Boy, I will come every day if that's the case. Yeah.
We can bring donuts, and we love Tracy
Don't-
shirts
I would love that.
because
man.
those are the best things.
Well, okay, so let's talk friendship. Let's talk connection. I'd like to start off. What have you observed? What are you? Are we winning in this area of life, or are we losing, or are we like even 1 for 1, 2 for 2? How are we doing?
Yeah, that I love talking about friendship. I what I see a lot is just people kind of getting scared or worried or because friendship changes over time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually walking through something myself with this, but you know, technology changes friendships. It can
Mm-hmm.
enhance things and it can also isolate us. And I really do work with people a lot on what does your social support network look like? And I ask questions like, what does it mean to be a friend? And what I hear a lot is, of course, if people have anxiety or depression, which we see a lot, then they say, I struggle with friendships.
Okay.
And I'll say, what do you mean? What does that look like? And it's different, but I hear a lot about, I don't make the time. I'm isolating myself because of my situation. And so I talk about what that would look like and people don't reflect. So I say, what would you love to have? How would you love to spend time with people? What would that look like? And so we dream a little bit, but I think people. And then there are people who do have friendships and they're sort of navigating, I thought this was my good friend and now their life circumstances changed and now we don't spend time together. We don't know how to transition.
Okay.
Like when a friend has kids. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
I do.
Because it's really easy. I was thinking actually through when you're in elementary and middle school and high school and even in college, friendships come so easy because you're just all there. And then after you leave and you go to work or have children or all of the above, your life really takes off and there's a lot going on. But sometimes I think we even avoid looking around and going, who's around me? Who's just in my sphere all of the time, neighbors, and can I friend these people? But I feel like we kind of get paralyzed because it doesn't come so naturally or easy and we don't really know how to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I joke about this. Not that people are food, so I preface it by saying this. But
Thank you for clarifying.
We grow up in cafeteria environments the moment we show up to the first day of school, and then even if you go all the way through college, most of us find our source in a cafeteria environment where it's like you show up, you didn't plan any of the food. Someone else planned the food. There might be a main food, but there's a bunch. You can get whatever you want. It's just easy to get food, which might explain why, especially in college, it's like, how did I just pack on 30 pounds? But it's life is a cafeteria. You show up to school. Here's your classes, and but I think friendships are very similar. You are in a cafeteria environment. You just show up. You don't have to work very hard at it. There's just people around, and you're kind of choosing the people. You're what do you like to do, and all that kind of stuff. So then if you graduate high school and if you don't go to college, you're put into a world that it's not near as cafeteria oriented. You might now work with a much smaller group of people. Or if you go to college, that cafeteria continues, but then you graduate and it's a smaller group of people. And then I think this disconnect, I don't know if I'm being accurate, but this is just the way I sense it, that you begin to reflect then on your past relationships and nothing is matching up to them. And it's harder. And maybe some of the ones that break down are more painful. And so eventually, what I find, I did it myself, and a lot of adults I talk to, you just give up. And like you mentioned, that's why when you mention people telling you, well, kids are in the picture now, what I hear is, and I've given up trying.
Right.
And so not that people are food, but I just think we live the cafeteria environment and then all of a sudden we're out of it. And now we're making our own meals. We're planning our own schedule of whatever we eat. And the same thing I think happens with companionship, with who am I connected to, and are we spending time together? And now you have to almost schedule it.
Right.
And you didn't used to have to. It may have been scheduled, but you weren't scheduling it. You were showing up to practice, or you were showing up to class, or you were whatever. But so people are telling you, or at least you're gathering, you're seeing that life is getting in the way. Is that a way to say it?
Yes. And I think you said something interesting about scheduling. People will say, well, if it's not on my schedule, it doesn't get done. And I don't know how many times I have said that. Yeah. And I try to get people to reframe it and say, if you were to look at something healthy for yourself, which research tells us that our relationships, the quality of our relationships, both friendships and our significant other and our kids, are the number one determining factor for what we consider good quality of life. There's a direct correlation. So something we know that can increase our happiness. Yes. And I say, what if we reframed it from saying, I have to schedule it, which sounds so clinical and boring and adulting and boomerish. What if we said, I am committed to creating space for this? And what if we just reframed even the language around it? And so that's where I often start with people. What if I am commit to create space for this? And then I say, what does that look like for you? And then I say, if you were going to be committed to building muscles or going to the gym, again, things I know nothing about. These are metaphors purely. Okay? But if I wanted to do that, I know that I would have to create space for that. Yes. I would have to be in the gym. I would have to create space to eating healthy. And so I have to do that in my relationships. And the other piece of it, I think I would say is this an active choice, an active life you're living, meaning are you living intentionally or are you spending more of your time in a reactive state?
Oh, good.
When you're like kids, here's the track meet, here's this. I mean, I'm living that this month, right? I am in a reactive state and it feels terrible. So it's like, what can I actively have that actually makes me feel good? What am I intentionally doing? And so that's where I start.
Well, because just like the cafeteria, so Hayden played football all through middle school, high school, and we had so many really great connections during the game, and because we're traveling together, and so you build these relationships with other parents, and they're incredible. But if we don't schedule it post football season, we kind of just become really good acquaintances, and we lose that opportunity to connect. And I think it's leveraging those two and doing the work. And one of the things I hear a lot is, I don't want to have to be the one that always reaches out and asks. And I think there's also some of that. We don't want to, maybe we are willing to work at it, but we don't want to be the only one. And there are some of us that I think are just naturally initiators.
Absolutely.
Like we will do that. And you kind of have to get over the feeling of like, do they not want to hang out with me? Well, no, maybe you're just in a season where you have the capacity to initiate or to pull in, to do that, because it takes us out of the reactive maybe more, because you at those track meets, I bet, have a crew that you get to hang out with and connect with and get filled up by.
Right.
Even though it's really windy and you're wrapped up in 20 blankets.
In a sleeping bag. Yes. That every other parent was jealous of, by the way.
Trendsetter.
Get the sleeping bag. Get it in your school colors. This is my hack for the track meets. Get in the school colors.
That's awesome.
So there's proof that like quality of life hinges on people in our life.
Right.
So I would imagine there's people listen and watch. They're going, but how do I find that? How do I? They're agreeing with you. That I need that. I agree with you.
Right.
So wisdom and how does someone go? How does a grown adult? Maybe that's a better. How does someone who's not in middle school right now, which is tragic. That's probably a horrible example. But how is someone not in an environment where there's just tons of people just readily available? What do they do? What are practical ways to either think or do?
So Katie brought up a really good point. I think proximity is helps us so much. I mean, we bought a house in a cul-de-sac. So just this cul-de-sac with kids running around, and all of this, and every time it's nice out, the adults and us, we just kind of gravitate out.
Yes.
So I would say look for what's in your world already.
Okay.
Reach out to those friends who are these acquaintances that you felt a connection with. Send a text. I think I talked in the last podcast about the crappy dinner party. I don't remember if I mentioned this before, but this is a fantastic way to do it. Carve out or, create space on 1 or 2 Friday nights a month that you create space and say, this is our crappy dinner party.
Yep.
You send out 20, 30 texts. Send it out to that person you think is interesting, but you don't really know that well. Send it out to people you want to reconnect with. Send it out to people who you enjoy spending time with. This isn't the time to send it out to people that maybe you'll need to do a little work with first. This is time to send it out to these people that are interesting. Send way more than you think. And you say, crappy dinner party, my house. Bring a snack if you want. I'm going to throw together a pot of whatever I have. And the rules are you're not allowed to overly clean. I do the bathroom. I think I said this.
That's smart.
I do the bathroom and I figure, throw some stuff for the kids. You carve out the space and throw it out there. And I read about this and I was like, this is insane. Because what happens, Katie, you know this.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, I'm not going to just invite people. Everyone's busy. Oh, my floor is a mess. I'll have to cook something. I'll have to clean some baseboards.
100%.
I don't know what I'll have to do, So I stop myself right there.
Yes.
And you have to send out that text on a Wednesday because you need to send it out so you can't cancel that, right? You can't change your mind on this. So we did this as an experiment and it has been literally the best thing ever. It was the most fun. The first time we did it, I was a nervous wreck. I threw together spaghetti and of course there's always more food than you ever need every time you go anywhere. It's not about sort of about the food, but
I love the food.
You know what I mean? The kids played. I laughed so hard. My stomach hurt. I reconnected with people. And when they left, I was like, why don't I do this more often? So I would say that's a great idea to start. But if you want to start smaller and say you're more introverted, I would do some reflection about what it is that you would like to do. It's really hard to say, go join a painting class or whatever. That's a little daunting for people because then they have to join a painting class and make friends. That's hard.
Yes.
So I would say for our more introverted friends, you might just really concentrate on building up an existing friendship. If it's gotten into the acquaintance mode, just stick with one person, reach out to them and say, can we have coffee? And just be the person that kind of puts that together. And then go with the expectation of, again, you're just creating space.
Yeah.
I don't have to form a friendship. I don't have to just go and say, this is sort of me being open to seeing this and doing that. And then again, I think repair. That's another thing.
Okay.
Some things I've heard is that, I really want to repair a friendship and I don't know how to do that. So that's another area that
Speak to this, my friend.
I feel like a little hypocritical right now because I'm actually walking through some stuff. I think,
Let me talk to
you want to hear this?
So,
Oprah,
I'm your counselor. I would love to hear about this because I bet every adult can say, I know of one relationship that maybe could get repaired.
Right. Well, this is funny because I think it's human nature. And I, of course, am just being a therapist, it protects you from none of this, right?
Right.
And you don't get to use it on people you love very well. It's kind of a power that, But I think getting to the age I am right now, which is I had my kids a little bit later. So my youngest is 9, my oldest is almost 15. So I'm still kind of in the throes of kids, but I'm also like in my late 40s, and so I'm kind of like ready to do things and be things. And I've had some friends we get together and meet. Like talk about carving out space. So we graduated. We're having our 30-year reunion this year. 30 years. So we graduated. We were the first graduating class from St. Thomas More High School, but we went to St. Martin's together, a lot of us. So there's about 10 of us that commit regularly every 6 weeks to getting together that are still around here. And it's been really life-changing, and that's been really healthy. So saying that I'm old, it means like I have friends that I have connections with for a long time. But even this last few years, I've had a friendship that, I thought was solid. We spent time together. We worked together in certain ways, and then we would socialize together. And when COVID hit and politics differences hit and some different things that used to just not be a big deal came up, it was shocking to me what it did to our friendship. And so I had to and I still am doing some reflection on like how, what part did I have in that? And I think that's a part of friendship too, is how much are you willing to look inward and say, what do I need to repair? Did I do something wrong? And then also I have had to walk through acknowledging that it's not the same. So you talk about grief and loss. I think there's a little piece of that too. That's like, this is changing in ways that maybe I don't want it to. And it is painful. And so I've really been committed to reflecting about it. And it's been kind of hurtful. And then you think, what does repair look like? And I still am not sure. I think for me, it's that I have to go through some acceptance that this isn't going to look the same. But that it still can be, valuable and good, and that it still can be something that could be good. But it's not easy. I think one of the funny things is I thought, well, wait, I'm this old. I should be able to like just count on people. Nobody, why is this happening? And it's funny. It's like, of course that would happen. It's going to happen our whole lives that things change and grow. But you have, I think when you have something for so long, you just think, oh, this is fine. So,
I think we start hunting for the same, whatever the same is. And I don't know that the same is always near as good as we think it was. Now, I'm saying the same could have been good, but I could think about, so I go, man, wish I had some relationships like I had in high school. Well, then I'll talk to my parents going,
oh, yeah.
Those were not good relationships, David. And I'm like, what? They were great. Like, we like the same music.
You like went totally 80s there for a minute.
But
surfer dude. That was awesome.
And what I'm bringing up is that sometimes our perception of what was is sometimes glorified. I'm not suggesting that with you and your friendship. But I'm saying, like, sometimes when we say, I just wanted to get back to the same, it's like, that's not always as picture perfect as sometimes we've made it out to be. I was once sitting with a guy over lunch, and he was asking how I was doing, and it was one of those, like, I kind of feel like he's really asking how I'm doing. Like, and so I said, are you really asking how I'm doing? Like really, really? He's like, yeah. And this was a guy that, will be very transparent, that doesn't live here, and I felt a freedom to really just be like, I'll tell you how I'm really doing, because you're about to get on a plane and leave. And I told him, and it was about a relationship. It was about a relationship. It was like, it's just not what I always thought it was, and it's changed, and it's not getting back to that. And I've preached on this where he's like, well, you're a Christian, right? And I'm like, yes. I mean, he knows I pastor a church. Yes. and he said that, he's like, well, Christians believe in the power of the resurrection. I was like, you better believe it. Jesus. He's like, no. Not just Jesus, that what was dead can come back to life. And he goes, that applies to relationships, that oftentimes a relationship can die. What you thought and wanted and what you believed to be true is in fact dead. It is dead. You what was portrayed to you and what was believed, it's now been laid to rest. But that doesn't mean that something can be resurrected from it, and it may not be the same, but it still can be life-giving and beautiful and good and special. But as a Christian, that's part of like forgiving others, going, we may not have the same relationship, but our relationship is dead. We can just admit it's dead. It does not exist anymore. Can we figure out a way that something is resurrected here and that we actually find value to it? And it doesn't have to be our goal to try to get back to what we were at. Can there be something new? And it's like, I think of where Thomas is struggling believing that Jesus is Jesus, and which tells us a little bit that Jesus was giving off at least the vibe of not being totally recognizable, that people aren't really like, oh, is this you? And be like, but you guys were with him so much. But learning that the power of resurrection can play out in a relationship, going, it may not look and feel the same, but it still can be special and good. So been helpful for me in forgiveness, and also going, so what do we get back to? Sorry, that's a whole, but.
Yeah. I think too, though, with that, it's the I want friendship because there are things that I need, and we can get really focused on that, or so focused on providing the other person what they need, and recognizing that it's all very fluid, and it's never going to look this. So I have a friend that she's incredible, and we used to meet at Tally's like once a week for breakfast, and then life kind of changed and we couldn't do that all the time. And so now we literally like meet at Target and walk around because we both need to shop and get stuff. So when one of us is going, we text and go, do you want to go?
Oh, that's great.
Do you just want to come with me?
example.
And it's like friendship on the move, we call it. But then I have another friend that she wanted to hike Skyline, and she was like, do you want to just, because we've not been able to find any time together. And I'm decently rhythmed and rigid in the sense that like, well, we only friend at Tally's. What do you mean? Like, how do we do this? But I'm learning too, to lean into, one, when I let go of what I need or what I want or what I think it should look like. And then I'm just willing to live life together. And how do we do that in a way that we still get time together and we get to fill each other's cups, but it may not look like we may be in the cleaning aisle at Target, having really in-depth conversations, or on Skyline, trying not to get hit by people on bicycles, but being able to really unpack stuff, but on the move. And that has been a game changer for me, where I leave feeling filled, but not like I had to like cancel 3 meetings to be able to have this moment. It's just, let's live life together and be okay that it's not as like cut and dry and, beautiful as it was when we got to just sit at Tally's for an hour and
I love that.
eat breakfast and not be interrupted by everything else. It's been a game changer for me, is just what can I do? And let's just start there and see where it goes.
I agree.
It's been great for me.
So repairing is not just an adult need. I mean, our own kids have gone through some of that a little bit.
Middle
What else
school.
about friendships, loneliness, disconnect? I don't know. Have you seen COVID effects?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yes. I mean, I think COVID is just so interesting on so many levels to me, but just watching through my office and through my community work, just to see how similar some of the impact has been, and then how different. I've had the biggest increase in teen referrals for social anxiety directly after COVID. Wow. And this is sort of friendship related too, because they would come into my office. I had 4 of them with almost identical symptoms. They were from different high schools. They were a bit different aged within 2 years. And they had spent so much time at home with remote learning, and they were isolated from their friends. And their friends were their anchor at school.
Yes.
And they came back going, I don't even know how to re-enter this world. I feel like everybody's looking at me. I feel like now this person isn't my friend anymore. Because when we're that age, friendship is very physical. It's proximity. It's like, if I'm with you, we are friends.
Right.
Yes.
There's not a lot of, complexity. So I've had to walk through with them that anxiety about, people don't leave because circumstances change, and kind of get their confidence back up. So I've seen some of that. And then I think when you talk about friendships and isolation, walking through when a friend has something really serious happen to them.
Yeah.
So I think about, the Greek words for friendship, philos, and then agape. And I think about this, but like I have a dear friend who is struggling with an alcohol addiction, and our friendship has changed immensely because of that.
Yeah.
And I had to move through this place of, this is something that I want to acknowledge, but I also want to be the reminder to you of how amazing you are, that you have not gone away, that you are not replaced by this,
Okay.
But I think our friendship moved into a more sacrificial friendship for me, or a more agape love, which is the type of Greek word for like, it's a more sacrificial love, right? Like for me, it's giving, because I'm not going to receive all of the things consistently that I used to receive from this person. And that's a gift to me too, spiritually, of course, but it's not easy.
No.
It's so hard. And there are times when I've cried. There are times when I've prayed. There are times when, you just want it to be different so badly. Or if there's periods where there's sobriety and there's things that are going really well, you this hope wells up, and and then you come crashing down. And so I've walked through that myself, and then with people in my own office. Addiction is a big one. How do we love and be friends, and how do we still, support and love, and yet we do have boundaries now. We've got some boundaries around some things. Yeah. So I think that the loneliness piece with COVID too, you mentioned, David, is like, it is so sad to me. It is an unbelievably across the board. People are struggling with loneliness, even when they have a lot of friends, even when they have a healthy marriage. COVID, I think for a lot of people, first and foremost, shot people's mortality like right in front of them. Right. I mean, it was like something out of their control. It was like, what do we need? It was just, It is a fear thing. And then however you are in your space to deal with fear at that point in time was where you started from. Yes. And the loneliness comes from, social distancing, and we couldn't see each other. And I did Zoom counseling in nursing homes, and the elderly population was hit so hard, and their friendships at that age, are dependent on their proximity, and even that was impacted. Yes. Because they couldn't even socialize in the same ways. And of course, what do you see statistically at that age with friendship? If you don't have regular meaningful social interaction, you see cognitive decline. Yes. You see loneliness, depression really quickly. You see physical decline. So it's important. I think COVID led us to that. But then, we also have, once we get isolated, and like you said, David, okay, well, I've given up. Well, I don't need friends. I have a husband. I have this. Is it that you're depressed? Is your depression coming from the fact that you're, isolated and don't have friends? Or did that, which came first, the chicken or the egg? I think you have to work on that whole spectrum.
So you mentioned something about boundaries. What have you learned? What do you know about, like, I think sometimes we see it in middle school, but in high school, and we deal with, we call it drama then, like, middle school drama, high school drama. But I think it carries on to adulthood too. So I'm just curious, what wisdom do you have? What have you seen about adults and boundaries, or how does a friend know, like, I need to put something here, I need to say something, do something different, and even like what makes a healthy friend versus one going, and here's a wall we got, or not, maybe a wall's a bad word, but what have you learned about boundaries?
It's interesting. I was just thinking about this when you were talking too, because I love the idea that we can learn. And, my big passion is coach. I love communication coaching because I think it's so important. And having difficult conversation is hard, right? I mean, nobody wants to do that. And so you'll see that in friendships. A lot of what I do with coaching, and some people will actually come into therapy at the urging of their friends who said, look, we're noticing these things. You just seem really on edge. You seem really upset. You seem stressed out. You're not handling A, B, and C well. And they'll be really offended, that their friends like had this conversation with them. Like, can you believe she said that, or he said that to me, and by the end of therapy, they're like, wow, I totally see what they were saying. And what a gift. And hopefully it all comes down. But I would say, like, I would say, the measure of a really healthy friendship is it's all about your connection, right?
Yes.
Do you have a history together? Do you spend shared time together? Do you have an intimate or pretty good knowledge of where people are in the world and how they're feeling and what they're doing? And are you talking about that regularly? And then can you have those tough conversations? Like, I'm really struggling because I feel like you're not making time for me and we used to spend time together.
Yes.
Or I'm noticing that when we go out, like you're drinking a lot, or, we've heard this in therapy, like you seem stressed out, or you were really mean to so-and-so, or your comment. Are you the person that can have that in a gentle, loving way? And can you receive it?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I know I don't like to receive it, but I mean, can you receive it? And that is often, I think, a sign of a healthy relationship. I think signs of toxic relationships, speaking of when I was kind of sharing my story, it was really funny to me because like you said, I thought this friendship was so great.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to my husband about it, because that was another thing, I set a boundary with myself, which was, it's really hard to not gossip. So gossip has to enter into friendship, which is drama, right? Okay. And that's another podcast, David. Let's do but
Gossip and drama.
Gossip and drama. But I was stuck. I didn't want to vent my feelings of pain and hurt and betrayal about this friend too, because she was friends with a lot of my other friends, right?
Yes.
Yep.
So I was trying to be really good about that, and I didn't want to, to share. So then my poor husband had to listen to all this. And I was telling David, he's an electrical engineer. So he,
Sorry, I laugh because I know his head's like, well, here's how we fix
he's
this.
going to kill me. But we actually met because I was his he was my math tutor. And I'm 7 years older than he is. Okay, so this was kind of a whole story. But I never have to do math again now that we are married, ever. So it works. But he's very analytical, and he just looked at me and listened because he's trained well now by this time. We've been married a long time. Listened, and then he said, well, remember this time when A, B, and C? And then he started recounting with his mega brain 5 years of things that he had noticed that were really negative or toxic. And I was like, he goes, I wouldn't trust her. I wouldn't have trusted her to look at A, B, and C. And I was like, wow. And I reflected on some of that, and I noticed some toxic traits that even I, living through it as a trained mental health therapist, was like not even aware of. And I think it's really easy to get to know those things. And one of the things that I noticed and that I talk to people about is, there is a lot of toxic communication. So critical talk, critical statements to you or others that are not done in love or kindness, that don't kind of go through those three filters. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary for their health? I noticed a lot of that. I noticed also a lot of shifting of blame or not apologizing for things. And I think when you're empaths like us, you don't really expect it. You give people a lot of grace sometimes, but what ends up happening is you might not notice that there's not accountability for hurt or wrongdoing.
Gotcha.
So I think looking for accountability, I think it was really apparent I always prided myself 20, 30 years of working in fields that I was the minority, being a Christian and being more conservative, that I could just get along with people and love people. And most of the time, 99% of the time, that's been true. But in this political climate, it seems opposite. And so for this friend in particular, there was a lot of persecution or like kind of, if you want to use a microaggressions or whatever you want to say, against my faith and against my position. And these are things that I think are elements of toxicity. Is this hurtful and persecutorial in a way that feels really unhealthy and not based on your growth?
Yes.
Not based on your dignity as a human. And they can be very subtle. And then again, I think the third thing that I look for in toxic relationships is the drama. Is this person always talking about other people? Is this person always negative about A, B, and C? Is this person take kind of asking you to do things or asking you in their lives when they need things. And it's not that we don't give, but it's just what's going on here. That doesn't feel like a connection.
Right.
That doesn't feel connecting. It feels like if you're always thinking you're doing something wrong or having that trigger of feeling like I feel like I'm always doing something wrong in this relationship, that can be a sign that maybe this is just a toxic sort of dynamic happening.
So likely there's someone or multiple people who just heard that, and now they've got names in their head. So they're like, whoa, like, because a therapist just gave terminology to toxicity, and now we're all going, I have that in my life, whether it's me or they've got names. What are some first steps? Like okay, so I'm wanting friendship, I'm wanting connection, and not only am I wanting that, but I've got some of the opposite going on. What would you say? Okay, start doing this, thinking this way, or processing this. What guidance?
I would say first and foremost, we always want clarity.
Yes.
So I would, if you're a Christian, just have some prayer about it. Talk to somebody. If you have another trusted friend that's not going to increase the drama factor of it, or if you have a therapist, get clarity on how it makes you feel when things are happening, and even writing them down, because sometimes it's so subtle. You think, am I crazy? It's kind of a gaslighting type situation where you just made to feel like it's no big deal, but it feels a big deal to you. Write it down, get clear. I think the second step then is to identify the first is the practical. Can I have a conversation? Do we have enough connection?
Yes.
Do I have enough trust to have a difficult conversation? And it might look like something like this. It might look like, friend, I've just been noticing that when we get together, there's a lot of negative talk about other people, and it just feels like real negative. And I just wondered if you've noticed that. Just kind of make a gentle observation and then sort of put it back on them, and then kind of watch their reaction. Now, I always coach people, you're probably going to get one of two reactions. You're going to get like, what are you talking about? What do you mean I'm negative? I'm not negative. You're negative. You want to hear negative. You're going to get like the explosive whatever.
Right.
And then you might also get the gaslighting kind of more toxic, which might be like, well, can you give me an example?
Yeah.
Well, I think you misheard that. Or kind of a minimizing or dismissing, and you just want to be prepared for anything. And I would coach people to say, whatever reaction you get, to say, I'm really hoping that we have an excellent friendship. I just know it can be better. And so next time I notice it, I'm just going to gently tell you I'm noticing that you're doing it. Is that okay?
Yep.
And then you do that. And again, this person, if there's a lot of toxicity there, they might not react well to that when you're going to gently do that.
Sure.
And I think at that point, you just need to plan your next step, which is this a relationship that I feel can be repaired? Have I done what I need to do to try to do that? And then the boundaries come in. What's my boundary? It would be nice to live in a world where if somebody annoyed us, we just, could get away from them easily. But in our world, we live in a small town. We're human beings. We live in community. Yes. Like often I have to be and work and get along with people that I might really disagree with or just really not care for, right? So then you decide what the boundary is. If I know I'm going to have to be with them, I can set some boundaries around that, right? I can limit projects maybe that I work with them, or I can just be really clear about time. I may be, if I'm in a book club with them, or if I'm in some, maybe I want to exit gracefully if that's a choice. But then you just say, I would like to know that I tried whatever my comfort level is. And exiting totally is not off the table. I mean, I think we can still love people, and we can still, root for them and all those things, but we don't have to have that in our lives if it's really, really toxic.
Yep.
And really, you get to decide that. I wish it were real easy. Exiting is not always easy, but it's not off the table.
No.
But it's also not easy being in a toxic relationship.
No,
it's
absolutely.
I would
Choose
agree
your
with you. It's
heart.
really hard to have those conversations.
Yeah.
Most people, I don't care what your personality is, most people, if you're healthy, do not enjoy those conversations. It stews most of us for weeks. And we're like, okay, I got to say, I need to process this. Some of us are even hearing what you're saying, going, no, I'm not going to do that. But we have to also realize, let's use the fence analogy, on the other side is equally like painful and not good, not healthy, brings you down, whatever is happening. And we got to remember that current reality in it, as well as the potential reality of having that kind of conversation. Have both of them going, okay, I got to remember I am making a choice here, but go with the healthier one.
Yeah.
Good wisdom.
Yeah.
So, what was it called? The crappy dinner party?
Crappy dinner party. You guys can Google this. It's actually based on an article, and it's super funny.
I would like us to do that.
Well, what I love about it is, again, I think we try to set up friendships or even just living life. There are just so many layers to the way that we do that. Some of it is self-protection. Some of it is like I've got it all together and all of that. And just living life together creates, I think, just such a healthy mentality, and expectations kind of aren't so high and heavy because you go, hey, my house is a mess.
Yeah.
I was cleaning the grout at our house the other day in preparation for the graduation party. And I sent some friends pictures of the before and after and went, we are monsters. Like how you have come over to this house. What is going on? But I loved it because then they were starting to share their pictures of the grout at the, but I think that's so good because it levels, because one of the things I know is I'm hearing you talking, I'm thinking, the relationships in our lives are so valuable, not just to our overall mental health and the way that we function, but because we have blind spots, all of us do. And to be able to invite people in to speak into us. And in marital relationships, we live that every day. We're helping course correct or encourage or whatever. But in friendships, it's so valuable because sometimes we're the worst with the people closest to us. But sometimes the blind spots that we have, we rely on people to be able to be brave enough to say, I heard you say that, and that doesn't sound like you. Are you doing all right? Or whatever it is. And hopefully it works, but also being aware that if it doesn't work, then maybe we need to sunset some things. But being willing to do it. And I think it starts by living life, having crappy dinners. We have 10 chicken nuggets. We're going to cook those.
Yes.
And then maybe some leftover spaghetti or whatever.
Yeah.
I love it because I think it says, meet me where I'm at, and I'm going to meet you where you're at. And we're just going to do this thing.
It says
let's
not
start
put on
somewhere.
a show. Let's skip the show.
Yeah.
Let's just skip the show.
And it says
let's
come
go to
if
dinner
you
afterwards.
can. And there's no pressure. And you don't have to send me some RSVP, and you don't also have to send me some lengthy apology for not coming.
Yeah.
And I also love that it's about joy.
Yes.
So the reason that it has such a good impact on us mentally and psychologically is because we were built to be in community, right?
Yes.
I mean, we were built that way. Like isolation is so bad for us physically, spiritually, emotionally.
Yep.
And I love that it's about joy because, the other thing I see happening too, and I hear this in therapy a lot, is the American culture around parenting. We've kind of talked about this.
Yes.
It's we need to be hands-on. We need to be with our kids all the time, or we need to they need to be doing something educationally stimulating.
Yes.
They have to be eating organic food. Like it is literally insane. And so we'll think, well, I've worked all week. I should maybe take the kids to a movie, or I should. But we have to, it's not about excluding our kids too. I love this. It's like, bring your kids.
Yeah.
Sure. I think that sometimes we silo our time spent as well.
Yes.
Like family time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kid time, adult time, whatever, work time.
Yes.
I love this idea of just come in and everyone, like our kids seeing us do that is so valuable for them.
Yeah.
Like, hey, my family opened up our home to like you guys did for post-prom. My mom and dad, they just had people over and it was totally fine. My mom and dad, if somebody was at our house at dinner time, they just said, hey, even if we don't have anything to eat, we're having cereal. I don't know,
Yeah.
We don't let
the best dinner.
We don't let ourselves get in the way. And the reality is we can't pick our family, right? God picked that for us. And sometimes, we get bogged down in, we got to go here for Christmas and we got to go here for here. And our friends are really the area in which we can curate this amazing group of people that God made. And we can just love and appreciate and be and laugh and be curious. How are you? What are you? It doesn't have to be a forced thing. It's just creating this space so that you can appreciate people and have the joy and bring the joy in.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thanks for your wisdom on this.
Yeah.
For those listening or watching, and you need a friend, I'm gonna pitch this. So we as a church, would love to help you find a friend. I think one of the greatest environments is a village called a church. And so if you're like, I don't even know how to meet people, maybe you hate all of your neighbors and you hate everyone in your whole city, whatever. Anyways, we would love, so you could just reach out. You can text us, 605-250-1224, and say, hey, I need help being a part of a village. And I can't promise you everyone that you'll meet is your dream friend that you've always wanted. But I can introduce you to a village. But thank you for your wisdom. Yes. You are a blessing in our lives.
Thank you. Yes. You too. You guys are great.
Well, we know. I'm just kidding. She hates it. I say it because thank you very much. Well, thanks for listening and watching. We love you very much.